Have you heard the phrase, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and ugliness even more so? We're quite comfortable to think of beauty as something that's subjective. And I think more recently we've come to think of everything as subjective. Is there any truth? Is there any honor? How do we define what is right? We've been talking a lot about having our relationship with God and how that relationship changes the way that we live. Salvation is by grace alone, and God saves us regardless of where we are or where we've come from. But knowing God does influence and shape the way that we view and interact with the world. We've just looked at how this relationship has grown through communication, praying, talking with God. We've looked at how this is applied specifically to the church in Philippi with the disagreement between the women. And Philippians 4:7 restates the foundation for our relationship with God. And the peace of God, which surpasses all comprehension, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. So what does this look like in our lives? How do we experience the peace of God guarding our hearts? Well, the Apostle Paul writes about this in Philippians 4:7-8. Finally, brethren, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is of good repute, if there is any excellence, and if anything worthy of praise, dwell on these things. The things you have learned and received and heard and seen in me, practice these things, and the God of peace will be with you. These verses describe for us what it looks like to live with God. God has revealed to us in His Word the truth, how to live honorably, righteously, and with all purity. We can know and learn the true beauty and excellence that God created in the world. To believe in God and follow Him isn't to leave the world and scorn everything that's around us. On the contrary, having a relationship with God allows us to make sense of the world and its mysteries. I find that it's really easy to think of faith and life as two separate things. I work and go to the shops and do things in public in one way, and then go home and think about God and have my religious life. But that's not the attitude we find in the letter to the Philippians. Instead, we have a call to keep in mind the things God teaches and to practice them in every area of our lives. Our friendships and relationships in the world are shaped by how God is at work in our lives. As we apply this to the way that we live, the God of peace is with us. Now notice in verse 9 that Paul says the God of peace and not the peace of God. This is helpful in remembering that we still look forward to a future hope. We are living in a world that needs peace and fights against this message. And at Christmas, we remember how God has come into the world to bring peace. Jesus is the one who came into the world. He is the God of peace who is with us. Now this leaves some questions for us to think about. How do I learn what is true, honorable, and right? What does practicing these things look like in my life? Am I living with the God of peace?